Thank you for doing this, first of all. I understand this is very strange.
Strange.
It's a bit strange to me. I had a lot of anxiety about doing this. Usually what I found was anything related to creating art out of my life, for lack of a better word, is it's easier on the edges where it's like there's not other people involved. So joy of expression is easy and these things, but anything to do with kind of keep family because it's obviously I'm concerned about how other people are feeling around this. So I will say this up front is I have like very happy memories of my childhood, and one of my things that I am very aware of is in telling stories about my life previously where I was in the closet and everything like that, is that those two things kind of sit side by side. Okay. Of like, as a teenager I was more and more aware of being in the closet in some way, but I also had these like really joyful memories of childhood and the same things on Friday nights. And
it'd be difficult though, or a shame. I mean, that's who you, I mean, you have to, like, it's your whole life, right?
You have to acknowledge it.
You have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, and now you're you.
Yeah. And that's a part of it, right? It's a continuation.
Exactly.
It's not a new person. It's this kind of...
No, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not. It's a new person, like physically, but it's still like you still have those things that you learned when you were young, right? Inside you.
Yeah.
That doesn't go away.
No. And I've actually come to realize I don't want it to.
No.
It actually feels very good to kind of hold those.
You just want, people to see you as you are, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like a stack of old photographs, and you look at it and say, there's, when I was 15 or 8 or,
Yeah.
and for that moment, you can step into that, but you're out of it. You flip that and get another photograph out, and you flip that and get another photograph out. So it's nice that you can go, oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was neat. But you put the photographs away, and then, you jump in the car and go pick up the kids.
Yeah.
And that's what life's about.
Yeah. Do you think that it's... I think the reason that we're able to do this, and actually to be honest, even the way we were able to navigate our, like this shift, right, this big change, is that we like spending time together. Like it's like a nice, so like it's like we want to, like, I look forward to going home. It's not a thing of like,
right,
now I have to go like do this thing. And I do talk to my friends, and particularly in the queer and trans community, that do kind of go, I know I have to do this because it's like the right thing or something like that, but they kind of have this feeling of like, I have to pretend for this period of time, and then I have to or drink or do whatever you need to do, and then you get back into your kind of life, and it's like an escape from it. But I don't ever feel that way. I remember having a couple trips maybe when I first started transitioning where I was just like,
but yes, I get that,
an edge, but like it didn't last long.
But I think as a family, we've always enjoyed being together.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's still that way. But I do agree with you. At the very beginning, there likely were a few visits that were difficult.
Yeah.
More difficult than...
And so it kind of felt like I had these like dual lives for like 6 months to a year. And then I kind of got to the point of, well, this feels embarrassing because my parents are wonderful. Like they're
Shucks.
Oh, shucks, eh?
No, I mean that though, in terms of like, it's hard. I trusted you all of a sudden that you could make that leap with me. There was phases of me coming out, right? There was that initial phone call, I think.
I don't remember it just being a phone call. I don't remember the exact moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can. It was shocking, I guess. Like I was like you, like blindsided us. We felt a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's not, the right thing to say, but
no, I think it is.
Yeah, I think that's how I felt. because we had, and I really hate to say it, but we had no idea,
I know.
right?
No,
It was totally out of the blue for us.
It wasn't like bread. You were like, oh, okay.
No,
it didn't fill gaps.
no. So,
Interesting.
yeah. But, you know, then we had to sort of figure it out, right? And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There were a lot of nights,
A lot of long conversations.
a lot of conversations,
Yeah.
and it went on for quite some time.
I know.
But I think we got through it.
Usually by conversation, laying in bed,
Yes.
and then one of us would
Yes.
stop the conversation, go to sleep, and then the other one be laying there.
For hours later, yes, that's true.
And you just
I
took
guess that's
turns.
how we dealt. Yeah, we just took turns with it, right? And then eventually we found our way through. It's just a different body. It's still the same person.
Yeah.
There was never a loss
Yeah.
of the person. It was just a change.
Yeah. We are by nature sharers. And so it's hard for us to keep things in. I mean, I'm telling telling the guys I play hockey with,
I know.
and I'm telling
Yeah.
our friends
It's true.
and guys that I work through Sask Housing, and you know, and what it does is it opens up other people to say, well, you know, I have a son who's gay,
Yeah.
and just discovered that a year ago, and other people saying, do you know, I think it's okay.
Yeah. I think it does matter. It matters a lot that you're actually like. When you told me that, I actually was really touched when you said like, was it hockey? And
So this, talking about support. The more you talk to someone, whether it be ourselves, and other people.
But there's two levels of support. There's support that we can give to you, and there's support that we give each other.
yeah.
Like I did try and find, books on the topic. I did. I checked out McNally's and, Indigo, and because online,
Yeah.
you just want to know more, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Be informed, I guess.
So you feel when you first heard the news, there was a little bit of fear.
Yeah, just because people can be very unkind.
Yeah.
Not fear for you, but
not-
fear for others
Yeah.
and how they would deal
And
with
how the kids, would somebody say something, and then you'd have to really go into an explanation for the kids so that they would understand.
Yeah.
There are some people that are going to be mean, Yeah, that's just normal parents. We're just
I think so,
normal.
too. No, I think you're very
I
normal.
think. Yeah, I know that you're a full-fledged adult. I know. It's just that you don't stop
Worrying.
about your children, I guess.
Yeah, I remember. As much as the environment is hard for trans people, I walked into a whole bunch of celebrations and
Yes.
you know what I mean, and this feeling
I
of
know.
like,
Yeah.
this is wonderful, and of new people in my life of you're finally yourself, and I had a lot of that, and I actually felt very good. But then there's no space necessarily for complex emotions of people that have been in your life for a long time, and it's how do you express where you know what I'm kind of getting at?
I do. I think because we could see how much happier you were in your life, I think that, I don't know, it made it easier for us,
Yeah.
right? I don't know
oh,
how else
yeah.
to say it.
You worry regardless of what gender your child is, in terms of substance abuse and alcohol and relations with other human beings. And, you know, how many times, you know, can you pick up your kid after they had their heart broken? But it's always about that they have to find a way.
Yeah. Very good.
You can't manage it.
Yeah.
You know? And therefore you can be there for support or advice or for whatever, but they've got to navigate, you know, and it's hard.
Yeah. Thinking back to Macklin, because I had a pretty positive
Yeah.
school experience.
Well,
Like,
we also have positive.
Yeah, I had like our group, and I had such, and even within the broader community of like the idea of like neighbors being able to come over, and like it was such a, it's informed how much I think about community. But then there's also the part of like, I think Macklin was part of the reason I was in the closet is because of like the structures of the religion and these sort of things. But the individuals within those are really good people, and there's people that I have had to partition kind of their views, their political views, or their views on transness or anything like that, from my memory of them just being like a foundationally good person. They just have a different...
Don't forget, it's a different time period.
Oh my God, yeah.
Compared to now.
It is.
You know, like your years of growing up.
It was,
It was a lot different. It was a lot different in society than it is now. It's a lot different now. It's a lot more inclusive. I know there's lots of political things I know still out there, but yeah, it's a lot better than it was.
Yeah.
And you can feel a lot safer, I hope.
Media has depicted the family from Father Knows Best and Leave It to Beaver. And it was such a narrow scope. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it was a narrow scope.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could have your generation has a wide scope. This is a family. You know, it's healthier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where I know how hard it is to be a parent, because you do like, it occupies like so much of my anxiety of like Harrison coming home and being like, I didn't get picked in soccer, and like my heart just being like, who's this kid? I'll talk to him. I'll talk to the parents, and like trying to like help and like these sort of things, and then
that's all normal stuff.
Feeling a lot of guilt because I'm like, oh, this is like never gonna go away. Like
the emotional trauma is 10 times worse than the physical trauma.
Yeah.
You know, like you say, you know, you missed a basket and you lost the game and you're feeling bad about yourself and stuff.
Break up junior high.
Yes.
You know, and things like that. Is it because you can't patch it, you can't put Neosporin on it, you can't put a Band-Aid on it. You know, you have to realize you have to let the individual work it out.
And that's likely what this has been.
Yeah.
Too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We can't do anything to help. You know, as a parent, you can't. I mean, this is you forging your ways. So.
Yeah.
Right. That's. Yeah.
Where I'm like, I really want to be myself in all of these spaces, because one of the kids was like that piece of it of like, I want them to know me as when they were kids, like the real version,
right.
the real me. But then part of it is I also was feeling like, not running out of time, but like I want a long period of time for us. Like I wanted this relationship to have kind of time to nest in a way, right? And it was a realization of like, oh God, I'm gonna be 40 soon, and that means my parents are gonna be a certain age, and like I had this like, a good effect of it is that there is an infinite time. That you really have to do the thing now that you want to do. Like, and you want to have the conversations you want to have and maintain the connections you want to have. But in some way, you were kind of what I wanted to capture in this documentary is this piece of integration and this kind of feeling of safety and that it's not easy right now for a lot of queer and trans kids.
No. Yeah, I know, Saskatchewan and Alberta,
Yeah.
New Brunswick. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I am worried about how that's all going to. I mean, if the government doesn't change their minds, which I'm still hopeful that may happen. Because being a teacher, and knowing what some of the parents that we taught, that their kids, I think it's really important to have that teacher on your side.
Like,
'Cause sometimes-
I think you and I have talked about this a little bit, like of why I didn't share some of those feelings when I was younger. And it's like, it wasn't like you and I were always close. And we talked about everything.
Well, I just felt bad, like when
Right.
we did. We said, what did we do wrong?
But yeah,
We did. I mean, we had that conversation
I know.
because, like, we could have, we could have supported you if we would have even thought that that was happening, but we had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, it was, we
You had
really
no
had
idea.
no idea
Yeah, I know.
that you were hurting. So,
But I don't think it would, like, I certainly, there's no,
no, I know.
I
know.
hope you feel that, like, that you
Yeah.
recognize that if, like, I wasn't able to talk about it in any way. I wasn't even really able to think through kind of what it meant. But it would have been hard even, like, with the love that we had and the safety I felt in the family and all these sort of things. It would have been hard because it's so close. And to have another adult to kind of say, I'm having this feeling.
Right.
I'm experiencing this, because if they react poorly, it's bad, but it's like also, it's not so
Affect a relationship.
it's not so close.
No.
And so it's the same reason that you can sometimes have like really intimate conversations with people that you just met, because there's not as much at risk there, because you can have vulnerable conversations with people that you just met, or in that, because there's not as much at risk there. And as a kid, it's like that basketball coach or the counselor or the teacher, John Dealey and I talking about art after class and stuff like that. Like, there's a distance from your real life that I think is really important. And I don't know if that's understood by the parental rights piece of it. And that's where I view this as like a huge success story of just us navigating it together. And the fact that we can even come together and talk about these things so openly, to me, feels very powerful. Commented on here like, wow, that's like a Grandma Jean jacket. Dad, I didn't tell you this, but I'm not only going through a gender transitioning, I'm transitioning into grandma. And you like really laughed, and I was like, it was this moment of like, okay, we can like joke about this, thank God. Like, it's a really, that's the thing too, is it's like the process of going through a gender transition is so embarrassing at parts, because you're just learning these things, and to not be able to, and I process so much through humor in our family, and so to have that thing to be the thing for a couple of years where we couldn't talk about or we couldn't joke about, and I could feel like Kathy's like I wanted me to feel loved and everything like that. But that's, I think, where the flip was, where it's just like no one has to be perfect here, like just
exactly.
It's got worse with estrogen.
I think we had this discussion too, you and I.
Yeah, I'm colder and I'm like a lot more emotional.
Yeah, welcome to the club.